study. God willing, today we'll be reading from Surah 26, verse 67, I believe. Yes. Let's all seek refuge in God from sin, the rejected. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Verse 67, Surah 26. This should be a sufficient proof, but most people are not believers. Most assuredly, your Lord is the Almighty, most merciful. So these verses are a continuation of the verses that are talking about the proof and the miracles that the people of Moses witnessed, and Pharaoh and his army getting annihilated in the end. And God says that this should be a sufficient proof, but most people are not believers. And we know that most people historically acknowledge the fact that, the sea parted and they were able to cross the river, but then they try to come up with other explanations as to why the sea parted, and, they don't believe that God intervened and helped Moses and his people, But mashallah, we know that these were proofs from God, and we know that this actually happened. But as God says, most people are not believers. So God willing, I'll continue reading verse 69. Abraham, narrate to them Abraham's history. He said to his father and his people, "What is this you are worshipping?" They said, "We worship statues. We are totally devoted to them." He said, "Can they hear you when you implore? Can they benefit you or harm you?" They said, "No, but we found our parents doing this." He said, "Do you see these idols that you worship, you and your ancestors? I am against them, for I am devoted only to the Lord of the universe, the one who created me and guided me, the one who feeds me and waters me. And when I get sick, he heals me, the one who puts me to death, then brings me back to life, the one who hopefully will forgive my sins on the day of judgment. My Lord, grant me wisdom and include me with the righteous. Let the example I set for the future generations be a good one. Make me one of the inheritors of the blissful paradise, and forgive my father, for he has gone astray. And do not forsake me on the day of resurrection. That is the day when neither money nor children can help. Only those who come to God with their whole heart will be saved. Paradise will be presented to the righteous. Hell will be set up for the strayers." So, going back to the history of Abraham, right? So God says that about Abraham that he was never an idol worshiper, and he was put through a lot of turmoil, and I mean he faced a lot of persecution when he invited his people to submission. Abraham was, the one who, called us submitters, who coined the term submission. And God gave all the practices of submission to Abraham. And Abraham was, referred to as, God's, a friend, right? I mean, God referred to him as such, and we know that, God calls him the righteous, and, so many things that we know about Abraham from the Quran, and he was very pious and righteous. And we know that, his humility and how down to earth he was, and how there was like very little or to no sign of any ego, in his soul. Like we don't see anything, like people who think that they're going to heaven or feel they're entitled to go to heaven, like should ponder upon this, that Abraham, is asking God, like, he says, the one who will hopefully forgive my sins on the day of resurrection, right? So he had this level of humility and humbleness that most people don't possess, right? Especially if, people receive a little bit of praise or, or some nice compliment, like someone, especially when it comes to religion, we have to be very careful that, we don't let things get to our heads, and we don't start thinking of ourselves like we're so righteous, we're so pious. And I mean, I wouldn't be saying this, but we have actually seen people that actually do that, People come in submission and they stay for a while, and then, something kicks in, like, people start thinking that they're so righteous, and so pious, and, they start acting differently, and, they develop this persona, where they even come up with like an angelic voice, and stuff like that. So people have to be careful, what we think of ourselves, first of all, how we perceive ourselves, and it reflects on our submission to God, and it reflects on our salvation in the hereafter. If someone gets a big ego, which, believe me, creeps in very quickly, simply the person's not going to make it. The ego becomes the person's God. People are blinded by their egos, and once you get the ego in, then you no longer receive any guidance from God, and then we know God says that people go astray. And so when people start thinking, having this image of themselves as high and mighty, then if they make a mistake, and you try to tell them that I made a mistake, they're never going to accept their mistake, because now their ego, they're this high and mighty figure that cannot do any wrong. They're so righteous, and how dare a person tell them that they did something that was not according to the Quran, or like, how can it be possible, like in their minds, it's not even possible for them to have a wrong belief or understanding whatsoever, and people actually end up as a result, basically getting duped by Satan. And so so this is a reminder from Abraham that he never felt like he was going to make it. I'm sure, like, God gave him good news many times to all the messengers and prophets. God says, people who are righteous, people who are pious, the angels descend upon them. They give them good news that, you shall have no fear or grief. Paradise has been reserved for you. So they've been told, probably, in subtle ways by God, that, they were going to make it, but still they're worried about it, still they're not 100% like convinced that, they're going to get this high rank. Abraham probably had, a very, very close rank with God, right? And he's just hopeful, he's saying like God will hopefully forgive my sins. Like, he's just hoping to not go to hell, he's just hoping to be redeemed. And that's a good example. That's why God says, in Abraham, there's a good example for us. And so going back to the verses, we see that, he was born at a time where people around him were worshiping these idols that were actually statues. And it's ironic that, it's interesting that the idols didn't possess any kind of ability. Because they were statues, and these people knew it. Like, when Abraham asked them, like, can they hear you when you implore? Can they benefit you or harm you? And they said no, right? So they know that they cannot hear them. They know that they cannot harm them. They cannot benefit them in any way. So they're useless dummies, right? And they're still worshiping him because they found their parents doing it, right? And so that tells us the mentality of the people, that they're just like in a way almost kind of inclined, or I don't want to say programmed, but they're inclined to follow their parents blindly, without questioning or thinking twice, like what they're doing. It doesn't matter. Like, automatically, when people are born in a religion and you ask them, hey, what religion are you? And they'll tell you right away. Like, you ask a 5-year-old, and he's going to tell you, oh, I'm Mormon or Jewish or or Muslim or Buddhist or whatever, just because their parents are, so they just assume the religion and follow it without even thinking about it, and obviously those are not the people that are going to make it, right? And someone who consciously makes a decision to worship God alone, even if you say you're a submitter, I mean, a submitter is born in a submitter's family and says, I'm a submitter. Well, are you really a submitter? Do you actually believe in God? I mean, it's not a label, right? It's a description of one's devotion to God. So people have to consciously make a decision to remember God and think about it, and this is provoked. I mean, this, Abraham, as he's talking to them, he's trying to make them think. Like, they can't talk to you, they can't hear you, they can't benefit you in any way. Like, why are you worshiping them in the first place, right? And he tells them that he's not okay with their idol worship. He tells them that he's against them because he's devoted to God alone. He's not shying away from standing up and proclaiming that he worships God alone. Even that we know from history, like how hostile and belligerent these people were around the time of Abraham. Like, he was very courageous and wise, and he said, and the way he is describing, God, he's saying he's against them because he's devoted to God, Lord of the universe, and he's acknowledging who that God is. Like, it's not that statue that doesn't talk to me, or I'm worshiping the one who actually feeds me, and the one who actually waters me, the one who actually heals me, and the one who puts us to death and brings us back to life. This happens, by the way, this happens every day when we go to sleep and we wake up. How that whole thing works, we witness it every day. Like, when you go to sleep, you don't know how you're going to wake up, or how you're going to go to sleep, or what happens while you sleep. The whole thing, but God has made the whole thing happen. It's like an on and off switch, and the way it will turn on the same way in the hereafter also. So he's saying he worships that God, and the one who will hopefully forgive his sins on the day of judgment. And then he's imploring God. He's imploring God to include him with the righteous, right? He's not even saying like, hey, like, I want to be, the cream of the cream, and just like that. He's just saying, like, include me with the righteous. Like, I just want to make it. I just want to be redeemed. I don't want to end up in hell with the transgressors who have deserved God's wrath. And then we know he made a mistake in verse 86 where he asked forgiveness for his father. This is where he asked forgiveness for his father. And we know that we're not supposed to ask forgiveness for the idol worshippers. That doesn't mean that we can pray for people's guidance. We can pray for people's guidance because their guidance is in accordance with God's will, and God will guide people who choose to be guided. But it's against God's system to forgive someone who is doing idol worship, because idol worship is the only unforgivable offense, right? But the guidance is there for people, and God guides people, and we can pray to God for people's guidance. So that's completely fine. Obviously, God's not going to guide someone who doesn't choose to be guided, but it's not prohibited to ask forgiveness. It's to ask for guidance, but we cannot ask forgiveness for the idol worshiper. So when people ask questions like, can I pray for so and so? Yeah, you can pray for people's guidance, you can pray for people's provisions. The person might not even actually believe in God, but they might tell you, pray for me. But you have to know that if this person's an idol worshiper, then you cannot pray for his forgiveness. But if someone wants a big house or a car or whatever, and say, pray for me that I get it, or I'm sick, pray for me that God heals me. You can do that. You can't ask for their forgiveness because it's against God's principle. And it's also a reminder for us that God doesn't go against his own system. When he says idol worship is an unforgivable offense, I mean, that definitely means something, and we have to be aware of that. That idol worshippers, if idol worship is maintained until death, it's never going to be forgiven, and we have to be careful about that, because idol worship doesn't necessarily mean that a person worships Jesus or Mary. I mean, or Muhammad, for that matter. I mean, they can worship their ego, they can worship their money, they can worship anything, so we have to be mindful of that, going back, reading verse 92, it says, they will disown their idols. They will be asked, where are the idols you had worshipped beside God? Can they help you now? Can they help themselves? They will be thrown therein together with the strayers and all of Satan's soldiers. They will say as if feud therein, by God we were far astray. How could we set you up to rank with the Lord of the universe? Those who misled us were wicked. Now we have no intercessors, nor a single close friend. If we could get another chance, we would then believe. This should be a good lesson, but most people are not believers. Your Lord is the Almighty, most merciful. So obviously, on the day of judgment, all these unrighteous idols, Satan, the Pope, the mullahs, all of these leaders, and people who idolize them, they'll all together, they will be burning in hell at the same time, along with Satan, and they'll be blaming one another. They'll be remorseful, and they will know specifically, of course, it will remind them every single moment of their life that why they're in eternal misery, because they did not believe. They set Satan up to rank with the Lord of the universe, right? So we know that the devil is the other alternative. We don't necessarily have to be a Satanist to worship Satan. You could be worshiping any idol, and you're actually worshiping Satan, because that's really what Satan wants, right? Satan doesn't come in front of people and say, worship me. He comes and invites people to worship Jesus or Muhammad or, all these things, dupes them with lies, wants them to uphold another book besides God or besides the Quran, and set up some kind of idols with God, through many different ways, right? But the thing is, all these people are doing, they were all along, they were all worshiping Satan, because this was his plan, and people who end up worshiping Satan ends up falling for his traps, because they have power over him. The devil eventually possesses them, right? So this brings me to the part where people talk about, whether circumcision is from Satan or not. I mean, it should like, if you do another extra unit in your prayer that you're not supposed to do, that you're not supposed to do, it's not part of your prayer. If you're doing, let's say, 3 units in your dawn prayer, then it means there's another God besides God that is telling you to do the 3rd unit, and whoever that God is your idol, right? So basically, and the devil being the other alternative means that it's coming from Satan. All innovations are from Satan. Hadith and Sunnah are satanic innovations. So even though it has nothing to do directly with Satan, in some ways, some of them might, but most of them will not have a direct connection, right? But we know that there are people who are doing that. They're worshiping Satan, right? The Mohammedans, they're worshiping Satan. The people, the Catholics who are worshiping the Trinity, they're worshiping Satan, right? You don't have to be like praying to Lucifer in order to be a Satanist or a worshiper of Satan in that sense. I mean, all these people are doing is worshiping Satan, and we can also see, like how these people are worshiping Satan, right? I mean, so picture for a minute, you have these people that are actually worshiping Satan, but at the same time, they have this other face that convinces people that they're righteous. People look at them and see them as such pious individuals, right? At least some of them would, right? A lot of them would. And they will do something and they will be impressed and they think, oh yeah, these people are such great worshipers of God. No, I mean, most of them are either like show-offs, pretenders, whatever. God knows exactly what is in their hearts because they're doing everything other than worshiping God. Because if anybody is really sincere about worshiping God, and if they truly believe in the hereafter, God knows that He will guide them, right, by virtue of their belief, and they will come to the truth, wherever they are, no matter what they believe, no matter which corner of the world they're in, eventually they'll get the message and they'll come into submission, like the truth will come to them, from God, because God controls. I mean, His power is awesome, right? But that's not the case with the majority of people. They're doomed because they're worshiping idols, and the majority of the people who are not worshiping idols, they don't even believe in anything. So it's just the minority of the minority, and that's all. The reason why God created this earth, to redeem those people. So, God willing, continuing on with verse number 105, Noah. The people of Noah disbelieved the messengers. Their brother Noah said to them, would you not be righteous? I am an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes from the Lord of the universe. You shall reverence God and obey me. They said, how can we believe with you when the worst among us have followed you? He said, how do I know what they did? Their judgment rests only with my Lord, if you could perceive. I will never dismiss the believers. I'm no more than a clarifying warner. They said, unless you refrain, O Noah, you will be stoned. He said, my Lord, my people have disbelieved me. Grant me victory against them, and deliver me and my company of believers. We delivered him and those who accompanied him in the loaded ark, and then we drowned the others. This should be a lesson, but most people are not believers. Most assuredly, your Lord is the Almighty, most merciful. So Noah's history, as we know, is a lesson. Most people acknowledge that there was Noah existed, but they also made a mockery of the ark, made it into this big fancy ship with like all kinds of exotic animals. But we know that it was his domesticated animals, and there was a ship that made of logs and ropes that were his own animals that were for his own survival. God wanted to carry them with him so he could continue to provide food supply for him, right? Because imagine the storm was going to be on, the journey was long, and so they had to eat and feed themselves and everything. So and start a new life wherever they were going to be. So this was part of God's plan. I mean, God could have even designed it otherwise, but obviously the other part of it was to allow these people to make a mockery out of it. And we see all kinds of stuff. I mean, and we see like actual mockery. Like, there is a mockery in itself by just maximizing it to this giant arc, right? But then also there's mockery like you see in the movies and stuff, right? Like there's one, there was this one movie I was looking at where this person is supposedly becoming Noah, and like he starts growing body hair like every few minutes. Like he keeps growing a beard, and they have like all sorts of jokes about it, and facial hair and hair growing and everything. So we understand that people made a mockery of Noah, but it's a great lesson for us that Noah lived at a time when these people were so hostile and they were worshiping idols, and he tried to preach to them the message, and instead of being grateful to him, or instead of at least being kind to him or just not attacking him, they actually wanted to kill him, right? And we know that he prayed to God to save him, and God saved him, and made it a lesson for people, because we see in the same way that any of the believers, God will save them in similar situations. We know, for example, the messenger of the covenant was saved in a similar manner and protected by God. So he was able to preach the message when all these people were, just really freaking out and wanting to kill him. But this is God's system. And then we also understand from this example in verses 111 and forward is, the people, who these people were egotistical, and so egotistical to the point that they didn't want to accept the message. And it seems like their reservation here, at least in these verses, seems to be just the part that, the people who have followed him are not to their standard, right? And, and they consider them lowly people. I mean, I don't know why that was exactly, but, Noah was only responsible for what he knew about these people. And he knew these people as believers because he had a message and these people believed him. But for the other people around them, these were not people that were respectful enough or high enough, for whatever reason. And they called him the worst. They called them the worst people. They said the worst people among have followed you. And obviously Noah said he's not going to dismiss the believers. And that's how we should be too. If there's people that people may say whatever about them, but we know them as righteous believers, and we see them as righteous believers. I mean, we cannot dismiss them based on what someone says, unless we know things for a fact that we have witnessed, or the person has proven in some way that what people are saying is actually the truth. Then you can have a conversation about that, right? But this is not something that Noah saw or in any way. It seems these were just things that the people were saying, that these are the worst people, and Noah answered correctly by telling him that he's not gonna judge them in the wrong way, based on what they're saying. So they said, unless you refrain, Noah, you will be stoned. He said, my Lord, these people have disbelieved me. Grant me victory against them and deliver me in my company of believers. And so in the same way, you and I, God willing, if we follow the right path, and people want to kill you or something like that, God will save you, like through his immense powers. Like imagine having a storm and being guided out and allowing these other people to drown. Like those people could have joined him eventually, but no, it was obviously God's decision to annihilate them. And in the same way, we know that God will annihilate the disbelievers now. They could be annihilated individually or they could be annihilated collectively, but it's God's system, and that's how it works. People are allowed to live, until a specific time, but then once the time is over, they're not given any more chances. And eventually, people will have to pay for their works. When there's a point of no return, when there's no hope left for these people, at that point, it's time for their annihilation. And we see from all these examples that's consistently the system, right? So going back to verse 123 for Hud, says, Ad disbelieved the messengers. Their brother Hud said to them, would you not be righteous? I am an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes from the Lord of the universe. So we can see here that every messenger that we see here is saying the same thing. And they're also telling him like, reverence God, obey me. I'm an honest messenger, and I'm not asking for any money, so or any fee, right? And so this is interesting when people say that, for example, that the messenger of the covenant, the hadith, that people have made up about Rashad, saying that the messenger said that you cannot give the Quran to people for free because they will not understand the value of it. And even if it's like for free, where someone's downloading it, where they're not even paying for it, it doesn't cost them anything to put it out there. That they actually insist on having money given to them specifically. Not saying that you should keep the money even. That would be different. But they're like, no, he said that it should have a fee, and the money should be there, and the money should go to them, specifically, and they're the only ones who can do it, right? So obviously Rashad, as a messenger, didn't say any of that, right? Because the messengers do not ask for a wage. It's God's system. It's God's message to the world. A messenger does not go to people and say, "Hey, give me $10, and then I'll give you the message." He had the message. He has everything written down. And if he saw people, he had books to sell for people who wanted to buy, so he could continue printing them out. But he wasn't like going around and trying to get money and then giving the message. Okay, pay me $20 or $10, and I'll give you the message. And nobody works that way. But you can see consistently with the false messengers, including this one who said they should be given money, are the ones who actually ask for money, the fake messengers. But the honest messenger of God, he was an honest messenger. And in the same way, we see that Hud was saying, "I'm an honest messenger. So, and you should reverence God and obey me, and I do not ask you for any wage. My wage comes from God." And so he's the best provider. And of course, when God is providing for you, you're his messenger. Why would you even want to go and ask anybody, unless you just want to, obviously, end up in hell. So, continuing the verses about Hud, it says 128, "You build on every hill a mansion for vanity's sake. You set up buildings as if you last forever, and when you strike mercilessly. You should reverence God and obey me. Reverence the one who provided you with all the things you know. He provided you with livestock and children and gardens and springs. I fear for you the retribution of an awesome day." They said, "It is the same whether you preach or not preach. That affliction was limited to our ancestors. No retribution will ever befall us." They thus disbelieved, and consequently we annihilated them. This should be a lesson, but most people are not believers. Most assuredly, your Lord is the Almighty, most merciful. And so we know that the people of Hud, it was the messenger. The Hud was the messenger, sent to community of Ad, and these people disobeyed him, obviously. And so what these people were doing were setting up, what everybody's doing these days, right? Setting up buildings as if they'd last forever. When they strike mercilessly. So people are doing that now too, right? It's a norm for the most part for a lot of people. And setting up buildings as if you last forever. You could look at how much people put in these buildings, like gold plating them, and so much stuff. Like they spend enormous amounts of money on building these mansions for vanity, and as if they're going to last forever. You're building a house, build something that's reasonably okay, good enough for you to live in, comfortable and everything. Don't go all out like you're going to last forever, right? But people actually do that. They think they're going to last forever. But nobody's going to last forever. Obviously, these things are just so temporary. And then also, like it says, when you strike mercilessly. So people should think about that. Obviously, anyone who is a believer, but for the disbelievers, they don't care, and they keep killing people left and right. But obviously, those people are not believers, and they're going to pay for it. But these people also were similar kinds of people, and then God annihilated them. And also they were so convinced that the affliction was limited to their ancestors, and then it will never happen to them. And boom, they were annihilated. So it's so easy for God. Obviously, people think that when people have a little bit of power, a little bit of money, and they think that they're invincible, right? As we can see, anybody with a little bit of power and money, how it just immediately, gets to them, and they become so wicked or greedy, So, but God says that, this is what happened to them. And so we need to think about this. And, obviously these people were fixated on the materials. They were, their priority was to get rich and enjoy this life. This was the motto, and they didn't care about other lives, for that matter. They killed, as we know, that they were doing all these things, and they weren't believers. But that's people in general, right? Most people are like that. And they were annihilated, but God says, but most people are not believers, right? It says that. So going over to verse 141, Saleh, Thamud disbelieved the messengers. Their brother Saleh said to them, would you not be righteous? I am an honest messenger to you. You shall reverence God and obey me. So we see, Saleh, is saying exactly the same thing, and inviting these people to worship God and follow Him, obey Him, and this is what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to reverence God, and we're supposed to obey the messenger. Now, some people will tell you that the messenger is not alive, so they don't need to obey him. But wait a minute, you're not obeying the messenger per se. When you're obeying him, you're actually following God. You're actually obeying God. So even though the messenger is not alive, it doesn't matter. God is there, right? So as long as God is there, which God will always be there, so you have to follow the message. You have to obey the messenger, whether the messenger is alive now or not. Doesn't mean that when the messenger say obey me, and then the messenger dies, and then these people go start worshiping their idols, right? Because we were just gonna obey the messenger while he was alive, right? But people will literally tell you, people who will unfortunately say that they're submitters and were with the messenger of the covenant will actually tell you that, So it's very surprising to hear these things, but we know, as God says, most people are not believers, right? So you have to be extremely fortunate and extremely blessed by God to make it. Anybody who claims to be a submitter or claims to believe, should know this, that the odds of us making it are very slim. The chances are very slim, and this is not to discourage people or scare people, but it is worth something to understand. Don't be complacent and be convinced you're just following the messenger and you are worshiping God and you don't have any idols, you're doing your prayers and you're fine. You have to really think about all the tricks that all the tests and all the traps that are there that you have to go through. It's not what it seems like. A lot of times people will think that, okay, well, that now they became a submitter, that everything's just going to be easy from that point on. It will be easy, but after you pass all your tests. After you pass all those tests to prove your devotion to God under all circumstances, things will be fine. But to pass the test, you have to prove that under every circumstance, under good times, bad times, all those things, you will worship God, and you will pass, all the tests when it comes to the commandments. That you will not fall for Satan's traps when it comes to Quran alone. What that means, and what it means to obey the messenger, and all of that, right? It's a lot of things, really, when you think about it, right? So it's not that easy, and that's why God says that the human being, when we accepted the responsibility, we were we were ignorant, right? I mean, even the mountains, who are much better souls than us, obviously, they obviously made the right choice. The animals and the stars, God says the mountains, they refused to bear it, but the human being accepted it because the human being is ignorant, because we didn't realize that what we were agreeing to or choosing to do, basically, I mean, it was up to us. We could have repented at that time and just be fine with just not going to hell, but we thought that we could make it. We thought that we thought that if we're gonna be good enough and the test is gonna be easy. We didn't realize, we overestimated our own intelligence and underestimated the difficulty of the challenge that we put ourselves to, wanting to go to higher heaven. I mean, it was all about that, right? I mean, we thought that we could make it and go to higher heaven by choosing God. Everybody thought that, right? The most evil people on earth that we know thought that. Everybody who came on earth, thought that they were going to choose God and pass the test. That's why they chose not to, repent. But we know that what are those odds of people who are actually going to do that? It's the minority of the minority. So anyways, may God allow us to be among the minority of the minority. May God allow us to, be successful. We should pray for it, certainly. We should be, we should learn from the examples of all these messengers and how humble they were. Especially, it's very important, especially when it comes to the ego. It's very easy for people to get swayed by, Satan's ideas. He puts these subtle whispers into people's mind as they come into submission, thinking, oh, they're doing so good and they're so righteous now. Wow, like, I'm so amazing, I'm so good. Look, I'm doing my prayers. Look, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I mean, it happens, right? So, I mean, I don't mean to mock anybody, but that happens, and that's how Satan plays with people's egos too, And but that's just one of his tricks, right? So there's so many others, so we have to be careful about it. And so with this, God willing, I will end. And if you guys have any comments or questions, please feel free. Thank you.
MashaAllah, brother. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
MashaAllah, brother.
Sorry.
Very good.
Thank you, mashallah. Sorry. I think I just shared my marriage certificate accidentally on my screen. Or one of those things. It was some certificate. Anyways. Yeah, it was my marriage license. Anyways. Okay. Yeah, so if you guys have any comments or questions, please feel free.
Assalamu alaikum everyone again. So I want to share my thought, the verses 116. They said, unless you refrain, O Noah, you will be a stone. So from this verse, what I understood, so actually God gave a lot of patience, or most of messengers, like a prophet. So Noah, he was peacing, hundreds of years. So but after all of these things, years peacing, So finally, what they said, they are
Sorry,
now
what did you
tired.
mean piecing?
Or preaching. That
Oh,
I mean
preaching.
the
Okay,
yeah
I see.
preaching. Yeah, preaching. Yeah,
Yes,
sorry. Yeah, my accent is not that good.
no
Yeah,
problem. Yeah.
yeah. It's good. You when it's good to clarify this, brother. Yeah, good. So unless you refrain, yeah. So it's look like they are now tired now. They don't want to listen anymore. So in certain point now they want to kill him. They said you will be stoned. So from now, so there is no way to preach anymore to these people. And what messenger said, he said, "My Lord, my people have disbelieved me." So yeah, so hundred years, and now what the messenger got, that now they are ready to stone him. So and there is no way, there is no hope now. So and also the same thing happened, the people of Ibrahim. So when they threw him in the fire, so there is no hope. He cannot stay anymore with them. So he has to move. So there is a certain point. So there is no any other way. There is no any hope. That's my understanding. That's my thought from this verse 160.
Sorry. So you can you share the last part of your comment?
So, yeah, so I mean that, so there is a point,
Mm-hmm.
so is no hope now.
Mm-hmm.
When the people are ready to stone him, the Noah now, you know. So then he said, "My Lord, my people disbelieve me, and 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 grant me victory against them, and deliver me and my company of believers." So now he wants help from God to save him and save his people, because now they are ready to stone him now. Is it clear, brother? My understanding?
Uh, yeah. So I think the point sorry, I'm a little bit distracted. So the point you were trying to make, the point you were making was the fact that he had no hope for these people, so he prayed to God for their annihilation, right?
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because he waited long years, So, but
Mm-hmm.
after that, what he got? Now they're ready to stone him,
Mm-hmm.
Now, so yeah, they become more hostile now, and there is no way to preach them anymore the message. So that's my understanding. And also wanted to say, brother, yeah, you, mashallah, you nicely explain about the idol worship, So this is the tricky point always, idol worship is so broad things, Yeah, so anything we follow as religion, if it's not authorized by God, so in some way we will be an idol worshiper. It's small or big. So if it is not authorized by God, so that means who authorized this thing? Even the small commandment. We cannot follow anything, any religious things. We cannot follow anything which is not, authorized by Quran and explained by messenger. So anything without Quran, simple, and it will be idol worship. Yeah, you explained very well. Yeah, so that's my understanding. So it doesn't matter. Even some people, like we just again and again you say the circumcision, if it's not authorized by God, even some people say it's not very hard, it's simple. But from my heart, I think this is not simple, because when you are doing anything and you believe that, and it's not authorized by God, so who authorized this one? To whom you follow? Who said to do this one? So it's very simple. That means I am doing some kind of idol worship, some other prohibition. Anything prohibition is not authorized by God, and I follow all other
Mm-hmm.
things. But still, I do something. I prohibit something which is not authorized by God. So now I tricked by Satan. Satan deceived
Mm-hmm.
me, and some way he I'm just committing idol worship,
Mm-hmm.
even though it's a small thing, yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful. I see in our submitter, they don't think even it's very
Mm-hmm.
it's big crime, but in
Mm-hmm.
my heart I see this is actually big crime.
Mm-hmm.
When you are doing anything is not authorized by God, is
Mm-hmm.
a very big crime. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like reminds me. Your comment reminds me of this one person who told me. He says, don't talk about it. He says, why do you care about it? He said, it's that little thing, So why do you want to cause division over it?
I also heard, but I am not we are not divisioning. That's we are just
Uh-huh.
saying this is a big crime. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is
but I
not
mean,
a.
the thing is, the division is happening by the people who are idolizing and breaking away from the religion by committing idol worship and, setting another source besides the Quran, right?
Yes,
So
yeah,
they're,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
the
oh,
ones
yeah,
that are
yeah.
dividing themselves from God,
Yes,
from the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
submitters
yeah.
by, because it says, like it says in Appendix 18, that religious, practices not specifically instituted in the Quran not specifically constituted in the Quran, constitutes a religion other than submission, right? So if someone's following practices that are not mentioned specifically in the Quran, they're following a religion other than submission. So they have gone astray by doing that, and you're just simply pointing it out to them, right? So nothing wrong with that. If anything, you're trying to help these people by reminding them to come back to God. Yeah. So, mashallah, we have one new face here today. We have Brother Hussein. Brother Hussein, would you like to say a few words and introduce yourself to the rest of the group?
Yeah, assalamu alaikum everybody. Assalamu alaikum. Hi, Suleman.
Assalamu alaikum.
Yeah, I love the verse and I really copy it and I sent it to my group in Lebanon about Abraham asking God for forgiveness, even though God put him as Khalil, which is in Arabic, Khalil is a friend, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I've been always taught all these years delivering the message and believing in God alone and doing the prayer in the correct way and the zakat and all this, and I'll be saved. But I really, with years, I noticed that it's more beyond than what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And I can see from the way my life going through now with the lots of tests and all that, and I notice. I mean, every small lies and every. I mean, I've been listening to Rashad yesterday when it make me laugh when he gave 2 pills to somebody. I don't know if you Solomon, you know about it. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
so fun.
He said, didn't say
And
Bismillah.
yeah. And he said to him, "Look, take these 2 pills, and you will be fine." And then later he find out that he make a big mistake. He run away. He run back to the guy and he say, "Where's the 2 pills?" They say, "What happened? What happened?" I say, "Give them back to me." He say, "I had them." They say, I make a big mistake." So the man is nearly died, you know. What's going on? He said, look, I give you 2 pills without saying these will help you, inshallah. You know, these 2 pills will remove your pain, God willing. So, so those things that we don't really give attention during our life, with the lots of things, lots of mistakes we do. I mean,
Was it saying that God willing, or was it saying that he said that
yeah,
he didn't say that you should say Bismillah?
uh, no, you know, Rashad when
Numbers.
he get, yeah,
Okay.
Rashad when he gave those 2 pills,
Mm-hmm.
and he said to them, "Look, I have 2 pills for his
Mm-hmm.
friend in masjid." He said, "This will remove your pain."
Okay.
And he did it. Yeah, he forgot to say. It's in the audio. I mean, I don't know if any one of you has heard that. He forgot to say, "Inshallah, will remove your pain." So, but he repent in within like few minutes. You know, he realized that he did a big mistake. And the lesson was Rashad was talking about is in the khutbah, or it's in the study. It wasn't khutbah, it's a study. He said Joseph he make a small mistake, and it's not a small mistake, but it is he's you know the when he asked him اذكرني عند ربك, get help from your Lord. So he stayed in the prison for a couple of years. So he said, how many years we should be in prison with doing similar mistakes like that, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
this is
so
an audio
yeah,
number 3 at 1 hour.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. I think we know it.
It
It's
says these
nice.
2 pills will remove your flu.
Yeah, yeah. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I realize really it's more than, you know. I mean, you go. I mean, I went through lots of things during my life. You know, I mean, I'm since 2005, 2000. Yeah, around 2005, I've been submitters. You know, and I had lots of experience really, and I know that now I should be more carefully. I should be really more careful, you know. And I always thought delivering the message, you know. And you know, when I went back to Lebanon, and Alhamdulillah, there is 12 of submitters. I delivered the message to them, and we're doing the Friday prayers. My mother, she's a submitter. My other 2 sisters, my wife, her sister, her cousin,
MashaAllah.
her sister's husband. I mean, we're so many, you know, now. But I thought all the time, like, I am fine, you know, I'm going to make it to heaven, you know. But you know, it's just Satan tricked me all these times, you know. I'm being confident. So I realize, and when how do I know that I did mistake? I know from my life's going, you know. I mean, when you go to, you know, when you have money and you lose your money, and you know what happened in Lebanon with our banks, you know, with our banks, and all our money is disappear. So I always thought, why this happened to me, you know? Why did that happen to me? I lost all my money in the banks. And but I realized, yes, I deserved it, because I neglected many things, and I should be really, really careful with every commandment in the Quran. So, guys, please, I mean, if you're new and submitters, it is a lot hard. Like Solomon said, it is really difficult. It is really difficult test. It's not easy. It's not easy, but I mean, the easy way is just run to God all the time. I mean, God should be in your head, yeah, like more than 70-80% of your time. Really, it's not going to work less than that. It will not work. You will struggle. You know, you will struggle. I'm not saying you're going to end up in hell. No, I don't mean that. No, but you will have bad time in life. You will have bad time if you're not sticking with the God commandment 100%. Really, it should be 100%. To have a happy life, perfect life, it should be 100%. There is no less than that. You know, I mean, God will forgive so many things, like God say in the Quran, وَيَعْفُ عَنْ كَثِيرٍ, all right? But I mean, if Joseph end up in a prison a couple of years for asking for help, so imagine how, like Solomon, the Quran, Prophet Solomon, he gave up all his horses. I mean, can we give up 1% of what we own if we miss something or we did lies? You know, like sometimes I say lies, you know, in the past to protect my, you know, for some reason to, you know, like for example the tax, you know, the tax where I'm living now in Ireland, and I've been I've been big liar with the tax, really, you know, to tell you the truth, you know. So I always thought to myself, you see, when I had an audit from the revenue, when they used to come to me and questioning me how much you make this year and how much you make this month, and I didn't answer any question correctly. I didn't. I was lying all the time. I was lying for years and years. So, and that's why I deserve to lose my money, because I've been lying all the time. I mean, there is no problem not to pay tax. Tell them not pay tax, okay? But don't tell them I make 1,000 when you are making 10,000. So this is the lie, you know. I mean, there is so many things we lie, thinking that we are, by lying we're protecting our income. So I end up selling all my businesses because the revenue, you know, because they were after me, and I had the 5 barbershop in Ireland, and I was making good money, but I couldn't be straight with them. I couldn't, for some reason, you know, Satan duped me not to be straight and honest. And and uh, I think I'm sure that I pay the price for all these lies, you know. I mean, God's watching me when this man is coming and asking me how much you're making and this and that, you know, and all these questions, and there is not a single question I answer it right correctly. So, will I God love me for saying this and doing this? No, of course not. If I tell the truth, it's fine. I mean, if I tell the truth and not paying my taxes, okay. I mean, you can do that, you know. I mean, I don't want to pay you, but this is what I make. I'm not going to pay you, but don't lie. So, it's just, you know, guys, it's not easy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy, and when you make lots of money every month, like your tax will be $5,000-6,000 per month. You you will guarantee you're gonna lie, you know, because you're not gonna give up 6,000 every month from your income. So, but Solomon, he gave up all his horses. You know, I thought by lies and saving my not paying the taxes and saying lies, I thought I'm gonna be successful in life, you know. So, but I end up losing everything. So I have to do the right things again.
Mm-hmm. Mashallah. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, mashallah. Definitely, we have to be mindful of that, all of us.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is. It
welcome to the
is.
study. You know, thanks for joining, mashallah.
Shukran, habibi.
Yeah.
Shukran, shukran.
Okay, so are there any other comments or questions from anybody about the verses here? Mashallah, a lot of them are just very straightforward, right? I mean, there's not much ambiguity in any of it that we read in terms of the message. I mean, all these messengers came and, you know, preached the same message, but, you know, the people's reaction is always negative and always hostile towards the messengers, you know. And obviously, you know, the spirit behind this is from Satan and his agents, all the devils. And they're so upset by hearing the truth and hearing about God alone because they don't want people to be redeemed, right? Always trying to stir trouble.
Yeah, Solomon, I have a question here.
Uh-huh.
I've been asked when I was in Lebanon from the other submitters. They ask me a question, and I answer it. I want to know if my answer was correct. They ask me, since there will be a freedom of choice, religion, freedom of religion, right? Anybody can choose his religion. Why Abraham was allowed to damage the status of the other people religion?
Well, he was
So
doing it to make a point, yeah.
my answer was with them to them. I said, look, I mean, we're reading the Quran now, and the Quran it's saying now, from the Quran time to now, God mentioned that we shouldn't be fighting other people in religion or doing something to them. Or that was my answer. It's just
Right.
I
So,
said, since the
go ahead.
laws coming to Muhammad time.
Yeah. So, I mean, um, it's a little more than that, right? So it's like we know that it wasn't like Abraham destroyed the idols because he didn't like them or he didn't like the idol. I mean, obviously he didn't like what they were doing, but he didn't destroy them for that reason, right? He didn't destroy them. Hey, like you should not be worshiping idols. I'm going to destroy all of them. That wasn't at all what he was doing. He broke all the little ones and he left the big one, for a reason, for them to know, to make a point to these people that, hey, like ask the big one. So
Yeah, but
it
we,
was
we
just
can always,
it was just
yeah.
a way. It was just a way to illustrate to them that, look,
Yeah,
what you're
but
worshiping is wrong. It was nothing to do with compulsion or any of that.
all right. But we
Right?
can't. I mean, if I want to go to churches back in my country with the biggest church,
Yeah.
and I destroy some churches and leave the biggest church, you
Yeah,
know,
but what would be the point? What would
I'll
be the
be in
point of
trouble,
you
right?
doing that, right? I mean, there was a story behind it with Abraham, for example, right?
I think I have I gave them really a different another answers. I keep going with my answers, and I said, look, I mean, it wasn't ordered from God for Abraham to do this. God did not tell him, okay, go destroy those. He come up with this idea, and it meant to happen. I really don't know if this is a correct
Yeah, I
answer.
don't. Honestly, I
Yeah,
don't think that's the right answer,
yeah,
because
it's not.
because
Yeah,
because it's like we're saying that Abraham made a mistake. In other words, or he disobeyed God in a way by doing this thing, right? Because as such, obviously Abraham knows as much as we do that people should have their freedom. I mean, he's just inviting people. He's not forcing them or trying to force anybody. And the whole thing was done just to prove a point. Abraham had wisdom, right?
yeah, of
So
course, of course.
so
Yeah,
so like he's not just saying like, okay, if I break the idols, imagine I break the idols, and then you can go, I break all the small idols, and then you go ask the big one. He's like, no, okay, let me do this. So here, all those idols are broken, and I don't know. It's like, ask the big one. Who did it? And they're like stumped because
of
like
course.
they
Yeah, of
know that
course.
the big
Because
one can't speak, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
that
of
was
course.
just to prove a point. It's
Yeah,
one
yeah.
thing. It's one thing to just go destroy idols for the sake of you hating them, or to force people to do anything. But he had a very specific purpose for doing that. Which was to uh, prove to these people, like for these people to actually think about it. In other words, to actually think about it, not just to prove his point in that way, but to actually make them think about the fact that, look, all those little idols are broken in front of the big one, and the big one can't even tell us who broke them. So
Yeah, yeah.
it really shows their
Yeah,
stupidity. That's all there was. Like,
yeah. I,
it
I agree
wasn't
100%. I
right.
agree hundred
It
percent with
wasn't.
you of a proofing point. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but
But it
can I
wasn't. It
that can I
wasn't
can
that
I do
we.
that now?
Huh?
That's what they answer you now.
No,
Can
that
we
what
do
I'm
that
saying
now to
is
prove a point?
like
Yeah.
uh, even if someone had a situation like this now, they could do it, and it wouldn't be disobeying God, or it wouldn't be like compulsion in any way, right? They were doing something very specific to prove a specific point. I mean, there's no prohibition as such that, let's say, if I'm having a debate with someone and they have a
Mm.
statue of Jesus, that if for some reason I have a very, very good reason to illustrate something, like, I could do it too, you could do it too, and you wouldn't be forcing your belief on anyone, you wouldn't be disobeying God, you're just proving a point. Like,
All
for
right.
example, when someone
And not to do it out of hatred or out of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
exactly,
just do it to prove a point. Yeah, yeah, I got
yes,
you. I got
like when someone, for example, when someone makes a joke, right, just for the
you. Yeah.
sake of laughing at someone or ridiculing someone, that's different than someone making a joke that has sarcasm in it to prove a point. For example, like, I make a joke, let's say, well, I shouldn't say that one, but, like, let's say I make a joke, I make a joke about, let's say, some figure, some entity, to show that they're not very smart, um, and
Mm.
just laughing at their I guess stupidity was
Yeah.
different
Yes.
from me, like, making a joke about something, but that
Oh.
joke actually shows, like, a point, a very important message, sends a very important message that
Right.
clicks when you see that. Like, you can do things with art, like, as a medium to convey your message, right? For example, so you
Mm.
can make a drawing of something, or a cartoon even, but the purpose of the cartoon is to make people think. It's a way of preaching the message, right? In those situations, you can do it. For example, you see the messenger of the covenant, in his newsletters, there were cartoons of Arabs, like, about math and stuff, right, like that, right?
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Because they, not because the Arabs are not good in math. A lot of the Arabs in the past, as we know, they invented a lot of algebra and all these things, but because they couldn't count the letters in the Bismillah, for example, like
Yeah.
simple things, and so
Yeah. Yeah.
this was there making fun of that, but it was not just making fun of them for the sake of making fun of them or ridiculing them. It was for the sake of proving a point that, hey, look, like, this is what's going on, right? And so those are very two different things, right? So when Abraham is doing that, it's not to do with, like, he just did it on his own or anything like that, or like he could be breaking a commandment. We know that he asked forgiveness for his father. That was a mistake he made,
Yeah.
but
But
that
at
was
this time, there is
pointed
no
out pretty
command,
clearly.
right? There is no that commandment. I mean, would you agree with me, Abraham, when he did this at his beginning, of the first stage of as a submitter, right? He should be young, right?
It's not because he was immature.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
He was very wise, and I mean, this was a very wise
yeah.
way
Yeah.
of showing people that, hey, look, what you're worshiping is worthless. I can't even help you, tell you a simple thing like this. You practically
Yeah.
demonstrated,
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
example, that your idol can't help. You put a situation, simulated a scenario where they saw for themselves, that they experienced it, in reality, that something happened, and the idol couldn't help them. So
Yeah.
they were defeated.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. I mean, it's clear to me now. Yeah.
Mashallah.
Yeah. I'll give them the correct answer.
And also, the Ibrahim, he did not go other areas, and he keep destroying the statues. He did, with his people, to point out them,
Yeah.
and after he destroy some of them, most of them, he did not hide from them. He
Yeah.
was there
Also,
to point out. So this is we have to be noticed. He did not he destroy and he hide somewhere else. He hate them and he
ran
destroy.
away.
Yeah, ran away, ran away. Yeah, he
Yeah, I
did
mean,
not do this.
also like if he wanted to really destroy the idols, he would go for the big one, too.
Yeah.
He left the big one. If
Hmm.
anybody wants to go destroy this, "Here, I'll go for the idol. I'll go for the biggest idol, and break it. This is your biggest one. Look, I broke it. Like how great I am.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Yeah. The other people, the traditional Muslim, they did this is for the other way. They did okay when they see something and they just this is not like the
like in
Prophet Ibrahim did.
Afghanistan, they destroyed all the
Yeah.
statues and all the
Yes. Yeah.
historical
Yeah. 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 It's not like
traditional heritage and everything. Yeah.
yeah.
So, Brother John, are you awake?
Maybe brother John is tired because he has to do more Quran study now because
Yeah, we were up till most. No, we can't hear you. Yeah, we were up pretty much all night, so that's why I'm asking. Because we were talking on, all of us were talking on WhatsApp.
oh, I see.
Yeah,
Okay, so okay, that's why. Okay,
yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah. No, John, we can't hear you for some reason. Um, I know it's weird. It shows like a big M in next to your name. Oh, that's moderator. Okay. Yeah, it says that it shows that you're unmuted, but oh no, I didn't interrupt you at all. We can't hear you. Maybe you could retry joining. Maybe close the app or something, or disconnect the call and then rejoin. Oh, yeah. When he disconnected, it kicked us all out for some reason. I think he was the first one to join. That's why it made him a moderator. That's crazy. I didn't see that before. John, you can try talking now.
Assalamu alaikum. Can you hear me?
So you know what happened? I think you were the first one to join, and so you had the moderator sign next to you on your window, and
Did
then
y'all just have to rejoin?
everybody had to rejoin. Yeah.
Oh man, I'm sorry. I feel like a dummy.
No, it's not your fault.
I just saw the red button and I'm like, okay, what's I just like I should have actually read
Did
it.
he give you a warning or something?
No, it didn't. It gave me a message after, like the meeting has been ended for everybody.
Oh, I see.
MashaAllah, brother, the whole meeting ended.
Yeah, I was like, no, after. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say, with the example earlier, with Abraham, that's a good point you brought up, because I thought about the same thing, brother, Suleman, like when he asked to be granted with the righteous, like it just showed his reverence and for God and His humbleness, and it's like you said. He sets. I mean, all the messengers have great examples they set, but like you said in the Quran, it points out how He sets. Abraham sets these amazing examples. I mean, because he's Abraham, like you said, he's the cream of the crop. So it's, but he's still asking to be with the righteous. So you know, and it's not like you know, like he's acting like he's already made it, you know. And so that's for us, you know, that should you know, that's good for us to see, and you know, to keep righteousness at our forefronts and keep us on our toes, and you know, continuing seeking God and His forgiveness.
So yeah, sorry. I think we when Brother John he disconnected, it disconnected everybody else because it made him a moderator and ended the whole meeting.
Mashallah, brother, I have a comment too about,
Uh huh.
you know, when Abraham broke the idols and stuff like that. We gotta understand too that if there was anything wrong or he made a mistake, God would have made it known in the Quran, right? And God is all knowing and He has it there, you know, for examples, and um, God knows everything. So if He has it there in the Quran, you know, it's nothing bad, mashallah. It's not like Abraham made a mistake or anything like that.
Yeah, this is a good point also, brother. Yeah, this is because he did a mistake when
Right,
he asked
right,
forgiveness
mashallah,
his father. So
right.
God pointed out. So yeah, mashallah. This is also good point.
Yeah. Also, the thing is, like, you know, the whole scenario is being highlighted for us in the Quran for a reason. You know, I mean, if just, you know, Abraham made some mistake like this, you know, God would tell us exactly as brother said, Raphael said, like, you know, he did this, he made a mistake because obviously, you know, somebody could read that and maybe wants to do something similar, and if it's not right, then God has to tell us, right? Because it's in the Quran. Like all these examples are in the Quran from the messengers are good examples for us to follow. They're not bad examples. And if something, God makes sure that if something did happen that was wrong, that God points it out, you know, because God doesn't want us to be misguided, you know.
Mashallah,
And
brother.
God is not playing games with us either for us to, okay, there's this example of this messenger and another example of another messenger, but now you have to think like which one is right, and then you only follow the messenger if you think he's right, you know. Specific, like the trick that people play also, when the messenger of the covenant said, you know, follow me, you know, if I'm saying anything on Quran, you don't follow me, right? And so a lot of people use that to say, well, okay, well, he said that, so now I can decide what Rashad said was from Quran or not. And if they don't understand it, like for example, if they don't understand the concept of insurance and why it's prohibited or and such, you know, and if they can't find it in the Quran, then they, you know, don't care. But obviously, we know that the messengers, you know, only bring the truth from God, and you know, and they were doing this. They were preaching the message from God, you know, as messengers. You know, He was delivering the message. So it was important responsibility. I mean, you know, they wouldn't be like acting all ignorant and immature and, you know, doing whatever they wanted. everything that they did was for a very specific reason and in accordance with God's plan.
Yeah, mashallah. Also, I think it, like the Quran talks about, like the Abraham's example of exemplary courage with all of this, or it was either the Quran or the Messenger had talked about that like that. But yeah, I also had a question about verse 95, and that's talking about Satan's soldiers. And the previous verse, it says they'll be thrown therein together with the strayers and all of Satan's soldiers. So that would be, I mean, that could be among the jinns and the humans, right? Like for humans who ally themselves with Satan's point of view, or I mean, whether they're like in a like they're fighting in an army against the believers, or maybe they're just like idol worshippers that have sided with his point of view. It's not just referring to like the jinns too, right?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, because the last chapter, 114, it mentioned min al insi wal jinn, which is from the humans, and so yes, soldiers will be.
So right, yeah, it's pretty interesting too. It's like they're not going to have any friends. They'll bear witness to this stuff. And it's like they're going to say, "How could we set you up to rank with the Lord of the universe?" It's like this. People that worship Jesus or Muhammad, and they're. I mean, and just a size comparison. I mean, just a human being, figuratively, like speaking, like or physically speaking, and a term like we can understand if you put them next to like a planet or even a star. I mean, what does this person even represent? And so it's like I guess these people will see their error on that day. I mean, they'll bear witness that they were astray too, and it's always amazing. Like how we could see see the future, or we're being told about stuff that's going to be quoted and said in the future, on the day of judgment. Like these are the quotations that these people are gonna be talking about. Like we'll probably see them too talk about this stuff, God willing. Yeah, it's just funny because it's like with the Christians, you see this all the time, and like every pastor and preacher or priest or just quote unquote us quote unquote Christian, because they're not like a true Christian like that's talked about in the Quran. It was mentioned by the messenger. They're like the believing like non-idol worshippers, but they all think like they all point the finger at each other when they use their own scripture about how Jesus will disown them. And the messenger has also included this. He's talked about this scripture and he's put it, I think, maybe in one of the appendices or the of the Quran. But they all think that like the disowning is going to be to other Christians except themselves. Because like when Jesus will disown these people. But it's like never for a moment.
Yeah,
Do
that's
they,
funny, right?
yeah, they don't ever give thought like it's to them,
Yeah, they're
like
like, oh,
me,
it's gonna
like
be
me.
everybody except us.
Yeah, yes, that's what they all like. They're all like pointing the fingers, and they all like, no, it's gonna be the Baptists, or it's gonna be this. Like a common one is like, oh, anybody who doesn't use the King James version is like has fallen trick to the Antichrist and their worship, and they all think, oh, these are the people. Because I watch these YouTube channels sometimes just to see what's going on, like what the latest news is, like what these people are talking about and believing, and it's like they all think it's everybody other sect except
Yeah,
themselves.
that actually happened with me. Actually, when I tried to debate with someone at there were these people related to my work, and they were preachers. Two of them were preachers. They worked in the same company, and so we had this one time we had this meeting, and not meeting but like a get together, for like a few days, and we ended up all staying at a resort. And so like one day they just decided to walk to my room and start preaching to me. So I opened the Quran, we got in a discussion, and then I started pulling up all of these verses from Appendix 22 from the Bible, and now when I read that one, that was their response, I believe, I think. Like, yeah, it's talking about all these other people.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I just, it shows, I guess, their lack of reverence too. Because I feel like if they had, I guess, enough reverence, they would maybe take a step back and like maybe be worried, like, oh, could this be me?
Yeah.
Like maybe should I examine yourself? Like the Quran tells us to examine ourselves. Like, ooh, what if this is referring to me?
Yeah.
But I think too they feel comfortable because they're they're in such big numbers in the majority of like these churches and congregations, and they think, oh well, there's no way all of us Baptists or Protestants could be wrong. It's
Yeah.
But I mean, just how horrifying it is for these people. I mean, if they don't reform, just how terrible it's going to be for them. When they find this stuff out, and it's just like the Quran said, they're gonna they're gonna say like, oh, how wrong we were, and because it's also like the Quran says, there has that verse that says it says they're utterly convinced of their wrong ways. Like they're so sure.
Yeah. Imagine remember that joke you shared with me about the 72 versions? That was you, right?
Oh,
I mean, they're making all these jokes, and also, I mean, they're gonna find out on the day of judgment that the joke was on them
that
too.
one I showed you. Right, yeah. That's the biggest joke. That's why I thought it was like I saw him post that, but like later the same person is posting stuff about like worshiping Jesus and stuff, and it's like like little do they know. It's like they're
They're
the
expecting
biggest fools
to fly in the arms of Jesus or whatever.
Yeah, and the rapture. Like I see these like Instagram reels and stuff. Like I saw one, like it, about it was like a joke about being flown up by the rapture and stuff. They just think they just think they're gonna suddenly gonna get taken up into the sky. So and that's another thing. It's like there's a big argument, like a lot of the Christians think anyone who believes in the rapture is like going to hell, like they're the deceived ones, and then the people with the rapture think the other thing, and it's like it's just a bunch of it's a bunch of nonsense,
Yeah.
But I mean, like the Quran says so beautifully, it says God will be the judge over all their disputes. On the day of judgment, He's going to judge over all of their disputes and arguments, and the truth is going to prevail. So their falsehood is gonna get vanish.
Mashallah. Yeah, I mean, it is definitely comforting to know that we have the truth. Everybody claims to have the truth. Like in these cases, all these people think that they have the truth, and everybody else is going to hell. But the thing is, what they lack is they don't have proof. But
Yeah, and you
mashallah.
can exactly, and just like seeing so many of these people and growing up around them, it's like you can tell too, like that they, despite how hard they act or they try to give the impression like they like truly believe or they're genuine or they think it's like you can always see something's missing in there, like with these people. And I mean, I've even been told in confidence by these people who I thought were, or I didn't think they were believers, but they thought they were. But like they even said, told me in confidence on a few different occasions that they feel like Like they don't truly believe like that something just doesn't fit right with some person dying on the cross and like
Mm-hmm.
having absorbed the sins for everybody. Like, but they just go along, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But they themselves don't even really believe. Like, it's like I asked a question a while back, like how could that? But it's like you said how you told me like how I mean it's in the Quran too. You know how Satan hypnotizes these people.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
he hypnotizes them into believing. But yeah, like you said, you know, it's I don't go around trying to convince, like knocking on people's door, like, oh look, like I mean, like the Jehovah's Witnesses and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
that do that. I think even the messenger met one of them, and he debated with them good, but they didn't really
Mm-hmm.
have
Yeah,
any.
because they come to
They
your house,
didn't.
they
Yeah,
we
right.
have good news for you.
Yeah, it's like come with me to hell. you know. Yeah, it's like it's like I'm going to hell. Do you want to join me? Believe in
Mm-hmm.
this, and it's they work so hard too. It's like kind of like the
Mm-hmm.
people I told you, the family I met, like they're making this whole relocation to a whole another continent. Like it's so much work to do stuff like that. Like so, I
They're going on a
guess
mission.
the rent, huh?
They're going on a mission.
Yeah. There's some type of mission, or they're not as like radical or as extremists as I think they're Pentecostals, but they're
Mm-hmm.
not like as extreme as like the Mennonites are. But they prohibit the TVs and stuff in the house.
Mm-hmm.
Very limited use of cell phone, but I mean they use electricity and stuff. But they when they moved, they're renting out their house. They had a good thing, I guess, here in where they were in Texas, and like they're relocating to this remote place in South America. I mean, who knows what type of environment and just weather or resources and stuff, and they're doing all of this, for it's all in vain. And it's like it's a big thing, and I'm just thinking, I'm like, man, if they could only, it's
Mm-hmm.
like they're working so hard to
Yeah.
just to
Yeah,
just
that's what God
go to
says,
hell.
when people are striving to go to hell,
Yeah,
people
yeah,
are
exactly.
striving to go to hell. I mean, we see that a lot, with all these religionists, false
Hmm.
religionists doing that, I mean, you see people going to mosques every day, doing prayers 5 times a day, but pushing, obviously, insisting on their ways at the same time, and insisting,
Right.
on their personal opinions.
Hmm.
So all of these are, anyways. Yeah, I mean, we thank God. I mean, it is a blessing, really. At least that, thank God that we know that we have the truth. But obviously now the the ball is in in our court. And we have to make sure that we use it, right. Um, just because we become submitters, and we do the minimum, is doesn't necessarily guarantee our salvation, because we also make a lot of mistakes. So and
Yeah,
also
that's true.
Satan's at play at the same time. Like we talked about different traps, and he'll make people believe that they're doing good, right? Mashallah.
Hmm. Yeah, it's hard work,
Yeah,
like
mashallah.
Hussein just said. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's like people, like you talked about doing the minimum, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like that's just kind of risky because it's like surviving on junk food,
Mm-hmm.
for the soul, but you're risking like, your whole eternal hereafter. Let's just say you do the minimum, like the contact prayers and, this and that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mashallah.
that's yeah, thank God, like you said, we have the truth. And yeah, it's a great
Mm-hmm.
responsibility. Uh, it's a great gift and honor, but it's
Yeah.
also comes with a
I mean,
huge responsibility.
yeah, but it's a real blessing, because we know that, even though it's difficult, but we at least we have the roadmap, you know, like, you know, imagine when we didn't have the message, you know, we were so confused and we didn't know, like, you know, what really was the right way, and you know, had all these heard all these conflicting ideas and stuff. But now we know, and we just have to, with our eyes closed, we just have to follow, like, and I mean,
Apply it. Yeah.
we know that, like, the whole path is in itself, like, there's challenges and all that, right? But really, to remember God himself, like, you know, I mean, how easy it is. I mean, it is really simple too, in a lot of ways, right? Like, you know, let's say you're going through some trouble or whatever. I mean, all you have to do is just remember God, you know, meditate, reflect, you know, and you know, getting to God. I mean, God is available for people who are seeking Him, like, who are truly seeking Him. God is there, and it's easy to follow. You just have to do your part. You know, make God your God, by worshiping Him. You know, I mean, it's like, we at least we know how to worship Him. You know, so.
Yeah, it's like you have this super complex math problem
Mm-hmm,
that even, you know, Einstein couldn't figure out, but like you're given the formula and it's so
mm-hmm,
easy. All you have to do is like just punch in the numbers, you know, like
mm-hmm,
put this number here because you're told, like you
mm-hmm,
said, you got the roadmap and you
mm-hmm,
just have to do it, you know,
mm-hmm,
and not like stare at the paper and not punching in any numbers.
mm-hmm,
But yes, on that regard, yeah, brother,
mm-hmm.
yeah, it's a blessing,
Yeah.
you know, because like anybody else who's trying to figure it out without that roadmap, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
without
Yeah.
the final testament, I mean, in this day and age, you know,
Mm-hmm.
like because we have the final scripture
Yeah.
uh, that supersedes, you know.
Yeah. But I think, mashallah, the important part that I think sometimes, well, obviously, well, people will miss is that they don't realize, like, even though you have the formula, like, you know, like, let's say, you know, let's say you're given an assignment to, like, write an essay. You know what you need to write, but perhaps you don't know how much work it is going to take, you know, on your part. I mean, it's going to take effort, and you're going to have to do it, right? So,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
we just have to prepare ourselves for it, you know, like, I don't know if I'm making sense, but, you know, I mean, you have to realize that it is a lot of work. I mean, if you don't, in order for you to make it, right? I mean, it's one thing to think that you're gonna make it, and not knowing how much work you have to do, right? How much work there is involved. If you don't even know that, then definitely you're not gonna make it. So you have to sort of prepare yourself first to know, understand what it is you have to do, like remembering God, like mashallah, Hussein talked about, brother Hussein talked about, you know, making God your God, like, you know, most of your day. You know, you have to understand, like, people find it, like, remember, like, one person said, oh, isn't it making the religion difficult that you have to do that,
Yeah,
like
like
saying
man, yeah,
Bismillah?
yeah. Before
Like,
you like
yes.
he wanted to drive the point home, like, oh, it's not an abomination to not say it if before you. It's just an abomination to say
Yeah.
to miss it and not say
Mm-hmm.
before you eat something. I'm like, why would you like why would you even compare what's an abomination? Like, it's not good either way around. I mean, he's
Mm-hmm.
like trying to say, oh, it's not as bad or sinful
Yeah.
if you don't say before you drink. Like, why are you even
Mm-hmm.
thinking like that? You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it's
then
like
don't
before I,
commemorate. Yeah, just do your bare minimum.
yeah,
Just don't
exactly.
eat pork, you know,
Yeah.
don't drink alcohol.
Yeah, like Brother
Yeah.
Hussein said, you know, don't justify what you're going through. Like, that's good, you know, because it's like some people, I mean, like I mean, you know, people who also are getting the message of submission, they could be maybe learning something new about it or still trying to accept it, you know, and you explain to these, and they understand a lot of concepts, but, you know, like I told this person, I said, you can't be like the dog that like you know the Quran gives an example like the dog that pants whether it's slapped or it's or not slapped but scolded or whether it's scolded or it's pet it doesn't take heed. It doesn't look. All right, I mean that's my understanding of that verse. Whether you scolded or petted it, pants. So it's like when something happens to you, it's like I'm trying to tell this person, like, look, this is because you're doing X, Y, and Z. Like, don't just ignore this, or don't keep on persisting. Like you're having these problems, because it's like I've like sent them just information and stuff, like an appendix, but yeah, it's just you know, like I'm just speaking from personal experience too. In the past, it's like it's our ego, I guess, that would not want us to tell, like, oh, you're doing something wrong, you're not doing something wrong. But it's better to, I guess, examine.
Yeah, look, listen. What happened to me, guys, when I back to Ireland 2 months ago? I haven't been in Ireland for 7 years,
Yeah,
right? I left.
sorry, Hussein. Sorry to interrupt you. Just 1 second. I sent you a message also
Yeah.
on WhatsApp. Just take a look, God willing. Also, but yeah, go ahead. Don't mean to interrupt.
Okay. 2 seconds.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So yep, I haven't been in Ireland for 7 years, right? So I had a driving license which was out of date since 2018, so I should renew it and all that. So when I back 2 months ago, see, I promised God I'm gonna do everything correct. I will not tell any lies. I will not run away from things in life. I will face anything, and so I want to go to work, which I don't have a car, I don't have a driving license, and I don't have insurance. Look what happened. I asked the girl who worked with me here and on the shop. I said, "Will you please let me borrow your car?" Because I was in the hotel, staying in the hotel. So I took her car, and I had no insurance to it. I don't have a driving license. I have nothing. But I have to get to work. I have to go to work. So I have to use. So I was in the car worried. I said, "My God, what if I get stopped now with the police? What's going to happen?" So the minute, it's amazing. After 7 years, look what happened. I was in the car and I saw a checkpoint in front of me. Now, I straight away, what I did, I turned to any turn. I took a left and I ran away from the checkpoint. After 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and I saw the police car after me. They knew that I changed the lane for some reason, so they follow me and they put the light and everything, and they stopped me. And the guy, he came out. I opened the window. He said, "Why did you run away from us?" I said, "Will I lie now or what?" I said, "Look, I sorry, my driving license out of date, and I should have taken an appointment within a week to renew." I look at him. I said, "Do you not know me? I used to cut your hair." He said to me, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know you. I know you're Sammy in the barber shop." Yeah, I said, "Yeah, yeah." And he didn't. And I swear to God, he didn't even look at any papers. After 7 years from the first day, I met somebody I used to cut his hair, who stopped me, and God teach me, tell me, "Don't worry, just don't worry, just go ahead. Why will you scare? Why you will still scare and fear?" So I'm not scaring anymore now. It's amazing. After 7 years, I have nothing in the car. It's not my car. It's not under my name. I don't have insurance. I don't have a driving license.
Yeah, you'd
And
get
one
so many
guy,
tickets for
after
that.
7 years, he's been one of my
Yeah.
customers.
Yeah, it happened to me actually. That actually happened to me once. I got
And
like
I
a few
said, please,
tickets.
God, I will never do that again. God, please forgive me. I'm not going to run away.
Yeah.
I will face anything. I don't care about the price anymore. I will go ahead and do it. I will never scare. So
Mashallah.
being scared and things like that, that will make you lie. That will make you see when you're scared, you lie. You know, when the fear encounter you and control you, you will definitely gonna lie.
That's true. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even little white lies and stuff, they aren't good. Like, I had to reflect on something I said, I think a few weeks ago, just like telling somebody where I was at. You know, uh, I told Suleman about it, and I was pretty conflicted about it. But I mean, like, it seemingly like I could have said, like, I mean, I could have just said something else. Like, I could have just said, oh, well, I'm on. It's not like I had to tell him exactly where I was at. It was just, yeah. Yeah, but I knew whenever you took that left, when you were saying you took that left, I knew that they were gonna follow you. That's like a that's like a hot spot radar. That shoots their antennas up. Like
And
I've
there was,
seen it happen with
yeah,
people.
and
They
there
they
were four of them in the car. There were four of them. I swear, there were
oh yeah
four of them.
yeah
Two in
they're
the
like, ooh,
front, two in
what
the
do we
back.
have here?
And only one of them I know. Only one of them, the guy who walked into my car. That's the only one I got used to cut his hair. And he came back. He came back last week for a haircut. I said, thank you so much. I mean, for what you're doing.
Uh-huh.
Oh, God. So now I'm lodging the money to my bank. Oh, my God.
Yeah, mashallah. That's really amazing, mashallah. Also, yeah, Hussein, he didn't tell you like where were you all these years? I had to go to another barber.
No. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
They're quiet people in Ireland.
mashallah. Yeah, mashallah. Hussein, he's really, really talented, mashallah. He cut my hair too a few times, right?
Yeah, I did. In San Jose, yeah.
Yeah. So, if you guys, do you guys have any other comments or questions? Any off-topic questions? Comments? All right. So, thank you all for joining. Our next Quran study, God willing, English Quran study would be on Tuesday at 2 p.m. Pacific time. God bless you guys. Assalamu alaikum.
God bless you all. Assalamu alaikum, everybody.
Assalamu alaikum. God bless.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.